Over the past 12 years of running salesman.com, I've worked with over 1,000 business owners who have added over $1.4 billion of net new revenue to their businesses at this point. And most of the advice out there about running a business that delivers a service is either blindingly obvious or just flat out wrong. Post more on LinkedIn. Work on your mindset. Hire an outbound sales agency. And that last one I've never seen work for more than a month or two, regardless of the company that they engage with. Well, you've probably heard all of this and none of it's moved the needle. So give me the next 20 odd minutes and I'm going to give you the most honest advice about owning a service business that you're going to hear all year. No bullshit, no go and hustle harder, just actually what's broken in your business and what to do about it. Does that sound good? Okay, well, let me break your heart with the very first bit of advice. But I promise that it is gonna increase your revenue when you wrap your head around it. Okay, so first up, nobody really cares how good your service is. Now, I know, I run 2 service-based businesses. That stinks. But this is what we've got to start with because all of the other brutally honest advice in this video flows from this exact point. The quality of what you deliver, the care, the years of hard-won experience baked into every single piece of work, that's not what your buyers are paying for. I always think of it like this, right? In our mentorship program, I talk about this concept called the reality gap method. So every buyer that you engage with or potential customer, they have the current reality. There is something painful, there's something broken, there's something costing them time or money right now, and they have a bigger, brighter future reality, the place where they want to get to. And your job as a business owner, if you're selling your own services or if you're managing a small sales team, is to position your service as the bridge between these two realities. This is important because what most people do is they pitch their prospects their credentials. They pitch their process, their methodology, the number of years that they've been in the industry. They are not pitching bridging the gap between these two places. You need to get a deal done. You need to help the prospect believe that they can get from one side to the other before they're going to care enough to ask how all of it actually gets implemented. And the business owner who can explain this transformation the most clearly, with the most certainty, almost always wins the client. And so the harsh truth is that it doesn't really matter how good your service actually is, because unless you've got the sales skills to close the deal, you're never going to have the opportunity to deliver that service anyway. And maybe that's not fair. And maybe in an ideal world, the person who delivers the best outcome would win all of the business within their market. But this is the game. And so the question isn't how to get better at the deliverables if you want to increase your revenue. The real question is, how do you get better at understanding your buyer's current reality, the future reality, and then positioning your service as the bridge to make this transformation? Now, if you're not using a CRM to track all of this, then you're never going to win. But there is one issue that you probably have within your pipeline, within your CRM right now, which is making all the money that you're spending on HubSpot, Salesforce, Close.com, whatever it is, maybe completely pointless. Okay, so if you were to open your CRM right now, or your spreadsheet, your notes app, your sticky notes that are stuck on your monitor, whatever you're using to track your sales pipeline, and you looked at the deals sat there, I bet you more than half of them were never going to close in the first place. And I know this because I've done pipeline reviews with business owners who've had the same quote unquote interested prospect sitting there in their funnel for 7, 8, 9 months. They might check in every few weeks or every couple of months or once a quarter, and the prospect might reply occasionally as well. But none of this is moving the deal forward. And the issue is that this individual, this company sat in your pipeline is considered a live opportunity. It gets included in your forecasting. The business owner talks themselves into believing that this quarter is looking okay because these numbers look kind of favorable, when they don't. Then when this isn't a qualified opportunity, and there's many of these unqualified opportunities sat there skewing all of this data. That is a contact in your CRM that you are too afraid to qualify out, because qualifying them out of your pipeline would mean admitting that your pipeline is emptier than what you thought. Now, a quick and simple qualification criteria that I use with all of my mentorship clients is need, budget, urgency, decision-making authority. That is it. Need, budget, urgency, decision-making authority. If you're missing any one of those criteria within each of the deals that are in your sales pipeline, that deal's not qualified and it should not be living in the middle of your sales pipeline. A clean and accurate sales pipeline is way, way more valuable than a fake full one. And this is because a clean pipeline tells the truth. And in a service business, lying to yourself about pipeline is how you enter the roller coaster of sales, where you tend to have a good month and then a couple of really crappy ones, or a good quarter and then you struggle to hit payroll in the next. That's painful, it's stressful, you don't want to be in that place. So go into your CRM, cut the dead weight, and let a kind of disappointing looking pipeline be your motivation to go and fill it. Which then brings us on to the third big shift that I want you to make with this video, because once your pipeline is telling you the truth, you don't need some massive overhaul in your sales process or marketing process or what you say on calls to drive insane amounts of revenue. The fact is that a 1% difference in sales performance might be all that it takes to literally put your competitors right out of business. Now, business owners often think that they need to make a quantum leap in their sales process or their marketing to dramatically increase their revenue numbers. So they get sucked into the latest marketing or right now AI fad, and they waste a bunch of time and money and end up no better off. And the reality is that due to very simple market forces, a small improvement in sales performance can lead to a dramatic increase in revenue. And I want you to think about it like this, because sales is a zero-sum game. You either win the deal or you don't win the deal. There's no second place in sales 99% of the time. And in a zero-sum game, the deciding factor isn't who does the best work, it's who does the best job of creating confidence in the buyer that they're going to get the outcome that they desire. And to win that zero-sum game, you've just got to be 1% better than your competitors. That's it, 1% better. And you can just absolutely decimate the entirety of your market. And I've worked with business owners who have implemented just a few small changes in their sales systems, got 1, 2, 3% better at driving this desire and trust in their potential buyers, and then they've doubled their revenue almost, I know it sounds crazy, but almost overnight. And that is the power of improving your sales systems and making it just 1% better than your competitors. And it's got nothing to do with how talented you are at delivering your work to your clients or client outcomes or anything else. And this brings us on to the next big understudied problem in businesses, right? Often businesses that deliver a service don't really have a sales system at all. They have referrals. And don't get me wrong, referrals are brilliant. And I mean, that's a silly, right? A referred prospect already trusts you before you've even said a word to them. But let me show you why relying on referrals can become a very dangerous game. So referrals are awesome, right? Close rates are higher, deal cycle lengths are shorter. The clients tend to be better as well because they know what they're going to get from working with you before they even engage with you. So don't stop asking for referrals. But a referral pipeline is not a sales strategy. It's kind of a prayer. It's a hope, right? Because the problem with referrals is that it's difficult to predict them. You can't really control them. You can't really scale them either. And if you can't rely on them, well, the moment that they dry up, which could be at any moment in time, which often tends to be just after you've delivered a big project and you're now back into the swing of sales trying to find something else to throw yourself or your team at, well, there's no sales process running alongside them if you're relying on referrals as a sole source of revenue. There's no outreach running, there's no system generating conversations, there's nothing, so you end up struggling. Alternatively, and the sensible approach here, and I don't even mean this as some kind of magical business advice, this is just a sensible approach to driving revenue and building a sustainable business. If you have the sales system running in the background, referrals become a nice bonus to everything that the sales system brings in, rather than what keeps revenue up and moving in the right direction. Now, this next one might be uncomfortable to sit with, but it is one of the most expensive mistakes I see when I'm working with business owners, and it's almost invisible if you're the one doing it. Okay, so here's what it looks like. A business owner jumps on a call with a potential customer. The prospect shares the issue that they are facing, and then the business owner, because they are genuinely good at what they do and they want to help, they start trying to solve the buyer's pain right there on the call for free. And the prospect gets exactly what they came for, the tension is relieved, and so they then ghost you. They don't need to get signed up, and that's it. You never speak to them again. And I cover all of this in my book, The Sales Code, and there's a chapter in the book on people pleasing, and inside that chapter there's a concept called the covert contract. Now, a covert contract is just an unspoken agreement that exists in the business owner's head, but not in the prospect's head. So let me give you an example, right? The business owner might have this contract in the head of, if I give you all of this value, in return, you're going to give me the business that's up for grabs. Now, this is a covert contract because the prospect never agreed to it. They don't even know that this exists. So you as the business owner is doing all this extra work, all this extra hustle, but the buyer just thinks this is just what you do. The buyer just doesn't understand that they've entered into this contract with you. Now, this is dumb, right? And the better approach on your calls is to lean into the pain that the buyer is suffering from, and then ask them how it's affecting their business, how it's affecting their revenue, and go down this rabbit hole. Ask them how it's affecting perhaps their family life if the pain is strong enough. And then, rather than solving their problems for them, share that, hey, you might be able to help them, and then outline the transformation that they're going to go through rather than the individual practical steps to implement that transformation. When you run your calls like this, the value that you create now builds interest rather than eliminating the need for the buyer to make a purchasing decision. But how do you do that without your calls dragging on forever? Well, here's the next problem. If your sales conversations do run for 40, 50, more than an hour long, and they end in, hey, let me think about it, I'll get back to you next week. Well, maybe the issue isn't your pitch, it's probably that you're not asking a really important selling question. So the most common mistake I see when I review sales calls is the lack of what I call micro-closing. So the business owner builds a ton of rapport, they run through the entirety of the discovery call process, they tick all the boxes, they put together a clear proposal, and then nothing happens, right? They might passively agree to send over some information and hope that the buyer get back to them in a week or so. Maybe they follow up once, maybe they follow up twice, but then inevitably things go quiet and they just sit there hoping that the prospect is going to circle back to them. And of course, they usually don't, right? Now, the solution to this is to start what I call micro-closing throughout your discovery call, but especially you have to do this right at the end. If you don't do this at the end, you're not doing a sales call whatsoever, you're actually just doing customer service. Now, a micro-close is a soft, non-salesy question that starts with, would it make sense to, and then the thing that you think would make the next logical step for the buyer. So you might share, would it make sense if I explain how my service works during the middle of a call? And you get the buyer to buy into this and they go, yeah, okay, please do share that. You might ask, would it make sense if I send over some more information? So then we can jump on a call and run through that information later today. So you've exchanged here information that the buyer wants for another call for you to run through it, which is what you want. You might ask, would it make sense for me to send over the invoice? And heck, let's get started with this today. And that's your closing question, and that should happen at the end of every one of your meetings. It's either, would it make sense to close the deal, or would it make sense to book this next meeting in or the next step of the buyer's journey and get it in the diary? And this process of micro-closing allows you to keep the buyer on a straight path from the current painful reality to the bigger, brighter future reality that you've now confirmed on these calls that you know that they want to move towards. And you should be asking micro questions all of the time. Like, for example, would it make sense if I share how you are absolutely ruining your negotiation leverage every time that you engage with a buyer? Well, do you see what I did there? Another micro-close. Okay, so tell me if you've been here before. A prospect asks a question about pricing. Then you, before the prospect has even said whether your pricing is too expensive or not, immediately you start hedging your bets. You share, well, we could look at a smaller scope, or we could perhaps give a bit of a discount, or we could phase the pricing in and do a payment plan, or if the budget is tight, we might be able to adjust this or that. Well, most people do this, even when the reality is that the prospect hasn't objected to the price yet. They've just left a little bit of silence, and the business owner or the salesperson jumps in and tries to fill it. And lots of business owners needlessly just volunteer these kind of discounts and concessions. Now, the solution to this is really simple. You're just going to start at the point of no. So share your deliverables, the price, and then don't make any concessions until the buyer says no. That's it, right? See how simple this is. And this is really important because if you don't know where the limits of the purchase are from the buyer's perspective, you're going to undersell yourself. You're going to discount. You're taking money literally out of your own pocket and just throwing it away into the ether. And it also makes you look like you've not bought into your own product and service from the buyer's perspective as well. So aim to get a no before you start offering any concessions or discounts, and you're going to be shocked how many people are going to say yes without you having to go through that big rigmarole. Now, the next bit of brutal advice is something that you know this damn well, but you haven't admitted it to yourself just yet. So one of the exercises I have people do in my mentorship is called the 1 hour week. And the exercise is very simple. You write down everything that you do in a full week in 1 hour chunks. So every task, every meeting, every reoccurring email thread, every admin task, absolutely everything. And then you go through this list at the end of the week and you ask yourself, truly honestly, which of these activities led to booking a conversation with a qualified prospect, and what led to deals being moved forward, and what led to just more admin being created because you did a bit of admin, or what led to just nothing happening whatsoever. And the unsurprising truth is that most business owners find that the list of things that move deals forward that drive revenue is embarrassingly short. It might seem like more hours, but it might only actually be 1 or 2 hours per week of focused sales effort, and everything else that you're doing is admin, internal process work, and the kind of tasks that feel productive, but they're not generating cash that pays off your mortgage, that allows you to retire early, that allows you to live the life that you want to live. And the bad news is that being busy, unfortunately, for business owners, is not a very good strategy. So what you got to do is do less stuff that doesn't make you money, and unsurprisingly, do more stuff that does make you money. And you've also got to be real with yourself here in the number of hours that you're actually spending on revenue generating activities each week, rather than living in this blissful kind of cloud of haze of ignorance about it. Because once you know that you're only spending 1, 2, 3 hours a week doing the most important thing that your business needs to not just survive, but to really grow and become this profit producing machine that lets you live the life that you really want to live, which is what we're here for at the end of the day. Once you know how many hours you're spending, you can then titrate that up or down so that you can live the life that you really want to live. So now that you know how much time that you're spending on the right things, well, there's one thing that you're probably neglecting right now that could very well instantly double your revenue in the next few hours. Right, so this is super simple, but you have to track your numbers. If you ask the average business owner what their close rate is, most of them are going to give you a rough estimate, but they're not really going to know the exact percentage. If you ask them how long a deal takes to go from first conversation to signed contract, you're going to get a blank face. If you ask them how many qualified conversations they need to generate a single new client, they don't know. And this is shocking to me. This is the business owner flying blind. And it explains why every profit and loss review feels like a surprise, right? So I have a process that eliminates this doubt, this uncertainty, and I run through it to my clients, and it's called the TPD review. So the Territory Pipeline and Deal Review. It's not complicated, but it does give you everything that you need to know about how effective your current sales process is. So when it's broken down, you have your territory review, which tells you the actual size of your market and whether you're going after the right part of it. You have your pipeline review, which tells you whether you have enough in your pipeline right now to hit your revenue target this quarter. And then you have your deal reviews, which tell you what's actually moving forward, what's stuck, and why that is. And this allows you to know your numbers, which is a key part of the process of professionalizing the sales function of your business. Because if you know your close rate, you can work out how many qualified conversations you need to get done. If you know how many conversations you need to have each week, each month, you now know how many prospects you need to contact each week to generate those conversations. If you know that, you now work out a daily number of new prospects to add to your sales machine. And as long as you hit that number consistently over a long enough period of time, you're going to hit your revenue goals. Whereas without all these numbers, you're never going to be sure of really what's working, and you could very well wake up 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, no better off from where you are right now. Now, if you want to implement this, I've included a link to a full breakdown of my TPD review that you can download completely for free and work through it, and it's in the video description. Now, if you hate sales, but you have to be involved in at least a part of the process, then there's one thing that you can start doing differently that's going to pretty much eliminate most of the pain from it. Okay, I get it, right? Nobody likes to feel rejected, and the most common form of sales rejection is objections that you get when you are chatting with a prospect. A prospect might say, it's a little bit more than I budgeted, and then business owners either drop the price immediately or they mentally write off the deal as dead. Both of these responses are wrong, and there is a simple objection handling framework that when you follow it, is going to eliminate a huge percentage of the sales objections that you face each week. They're just not going to exist anymore. And the framework goes like this. You listen, repeat it back, and then either solve it or move past it. And finally then confirm the objection has been dealt with at the end of the process. Now, the step that changes everything is the second step in the framework, where we repeat the objection back to the buyer. Why is this the case? Because a significant number of the objections that you face during the entirety of the sales process come from what I call the computer brain. They are habitual responses that the prospect throws out to just give themselves a little bit of time to think. And when you go through this framework and you reflect the objection back calmly to the prospect, they often walk the objection back because now they're thinking about it with the conscious brain. So it's gone from the computer unconscious brain to the conscious human brain. So you might say something along the lines of, so the budget might hold you back with this project, right? And then they think about it and they're going to say, Well, it's not that we don't have the budget, it's that we just need to know a little bit more, understand a little bit more about the return that we could get from it if we got this approved. That is no longer an objection. That is now a request from them to you to help them build a business case, which is completely solvable. And these real objections that are coming now from the buyer's human brain, their conscious brain, rather than their computer brain or their subconscious brain, are really useful. They tell you exactly what you haven't addressed yet. They tell you what the prospect still needs to believe before they can commit to working with you. It's information, and so you should work with it. So don't fold or stress at the first sign of any pushback or objections from buyers. And don't give up feeling frustrated when they throw them at you, because they're going to throw objections your direction. Often the buyer just needs to go through that little bit of a process to come to the realization that heck, they do need your service, and what they thought was holding them back wasn't actually the issue. Now, this next piece of advice might be the hardest piece of advice to hear, because once you start looking for it, you're going to find it absolutely everywhere in your business. Now, please wrap your head around this because it's really important, but business owners make decisions consistently about how to price their services, how to package them, what to include, how they describe and pitch what they do based on what impresses them rather than what perhaps impresses a buyer. They talk about what they feel proud of, what they feel makes them look sophisticated, what the business owner feels like they need to do, say, be or have to be taken seriously. And often the buyer couldn't care less. They only care WIIFT, what's in it for them. And this should be your mantra whether you're writing sales emails, creating content, or speaking with a potential customer. And the business owners who consistently win are the ones who can articulate the buyer's situation, what's in it for them, even more clearly than what the buyer can. They spend more time asking the questions to go deeper into the buyer's needs rather than telling them what they should do. And they focus on building every conversation around the buyer's outcomes rather than their own credentials. Now, as we talk about thinking about yourself, lots of business owners also make this following mistake because they're not willing to put in the effort to build out the sales function themselves. They're looking for a shortcut that just doesn't exist. So it's a common sight that I see that business owners feel like revenue isn't growing fast enough, so they bring in a salesperson. The salesperson starts, nothing really changes, and then 4 months in, the salesperson is gone, and then the cycle repeats over and over again. And when helping business owners rapidly scale their businesses, I've got a model that I always share, and it consists of, and this is to eliminate this pressure and this desire to want to hire a salesperson to solve all problems, it consists of the process machine, the meat machine, and the scaling machine. Now, the process machine is the sales system itself. So the steps of the process, the qualification framework, the consistent approach, the discovery calls, the closing methodology, the micro-closing. The meat machine then is the person running the system. Then we have the scaling machine, which is what you use to amplify both of these systems. And the mistake that business owners often make is they try to run the meat machine on a process that doesn't exist yet. Because a salesperson dropped into a business with no confirmed ideal customer persona, no consistent qualification approach, no follow-up strategy, no closing process, like micro-closing again, well, that's a salesperson that's going to crash and burn. Because, well, they're going to try and make all of this up as they go along. They're going to try and bullshit it, right? And you've got to remember that they don't have the same incentives to bullshit and then eventually turn this into something practical like you have. For the salesperson, it's just a job. And there are lots of jobs out there, and they can go get another sales job at a drop of a hat if they're half decent at what they do. For you, however, any screw up when you're scaling from this kind of initial baby 200 grand to around 2 to 3 million in revenue can be absolutely devastating. You could lose your house, it could have an impact on your home life, the stress that can come from failing during the scaling process can be undeniably impactful on all parts of your life. So my advice is to use this natural incentive that you have to build the process first to make sure it works before you hire the person to run it. Because if you hire the salesperson and you hope that they're going to bring this process with them, you're going to be in for an expensive 4 to 6 month experiment that ends with a recruitment fee and a massive gap in your sales pipeline and an even bigger gap in your personal wallet as well. The process has to come first, every single time. And this next piece of advice is the one that reframes everything else that we've covered in this video. Okay, so your buyers are not sitting there thinking, I'd love to hire a marketing consultant this quarter, or I really want to spend some money on some engineering support for our big project. Of Of course they're not, right? They're thinking about the deal they're about to lose to the competitor who's made a move that worries them, or the fact that they're behind on their quarterly sales, or their project is just about to fail, or they've got a client who really isn't happy. What they want is their problems gone. They want their anxieties reduced. They want the outcome delivered. Your service, no matter how much you're in love with it, is just the mechanism to achieve that goal. So every framework that we've covered in this video, so the pipeline review, the discovery call structure, the follow-up process, negotiations, micro-closing, all of it exists to serve a single thing, to help the buyer get from where they are right now to where they want to be, to bridge the gap between these two places as efficiently and as trustworthily and as confidently as possible. And the business owners who really understand that increasing your revenue really does come down to just communicating this transformation are the ones that make the serious money and grow the fastest. And there it is, 13 things that are costing you deals right now. And the honest answer is that most business owners know most of these things exist in their business, but they've yet to fix them. And knowing that there's a problem and having a process or coaching to solve it are completely two different situations to find yourself in. So if you run a business that sells a service to other businesses and your revenue is inconsistent, your deals stall after good conversations, there's never enough time to focus on sales, or your sales just aren't growing fast enough because you're deep in delivery, well, the problem isn't you. The problem is that you don't have a sales system installed. And in my Salesperson.com mentorship program, that's what I do. I help install proven, repeatable sales processes into your business, and I coach you through this one-to-one until it's working and it's making you a bunch of money. And it's all guaranteed. If you do the work and your sales system isn't finding and closing qualified opportunities in the first 30 days, I'll give you a full refund, plus $1,000 on top to say sorry for wasting your time. So if you want to learn more about the mentorship, click the link in the description and book a call into my personal calendar. And you and I will sit there on a Zoom call, and we'll see if it's a good fit to work together. And if you only watch one business video this year, you better make sure it's this one if you want to outsell your competition by implementing just a few simple, fast changes in your sales process.